Good morning, this is Shelby Law with the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Monday, June 28th, 2021. Fire potential impacts for the next few days are shown here. The main story we have is the continuing heat across Idaho and much of western Nevada for the next couple of days, expanding a little bit further eastward by midweek. And then, of course, we have some thunderstorms moving back into the southern Great Basin starting late today, but a bigger push on Tuesday and into Wednesday, with an increase in thunderstorm activity there. By Wednesday, some of the storms will moisten up quite a bit over southern Utah and the higher elevations of southern Nevada. Yesterday was a warm, sunny, and dry day. Great Basin fire activity is shown on this map. We did pick up some initial attack, particularly over Utah, and then a few fires up in Idaho and far eastern Nevada. Observed precipitation for the past 14 days is shown here with the inches on the left and the percent of normal on the right. Finally, nice to see some above normal precipitation in Utah, especially over the central and eastern half of the state, where fire danger had been particularly high. Still very dry over Idaho and much of Nevada. ERCs have decreased quite a bit since the highs that we saw last week before some of this moisture moved in. Those values are still somewhat low across northern and northeast Utah in particular. Across southern Utah, however, they're still quite high, above the 80th and 90th percentile. The values across Idaho and western Nevada in particular are going to be increasing under this very hot air mass that's moving up into the Pacific Northwest. So expect those values to increase. And then over southern Utah over the next few days, as the moisture moves in, those values should decrease. A closer look at the ERCs trending right now across far southwest Idaho. Those values are above normal for the time of year, but below the 90th percentile, but on the upward trend over the next few days. And then further south and east over east central Utah, those values took a pretty significant hit last week with the moisture that moved in. A couple of days of drying here, and then some moisture moving back in by midweek. The satellite image from this morning shows that very strong high pressure really far north over the Pacific Northwest and southern Canada there, leading to very warm temperatures across the north and dry conditions. Further south, we do have some moisture in place over the far south over New Mexico. That moisture is going to be moving up towards the Great Basin mostly by Tuesday into Wednesday and Thursday. So we'll be looking for that transition. For today, mostly dry conditions exist across much of the Great Basin, although a little bit of moisture will start to make its way into mostly southern Nevada and the Arizona Strip. We do have some high-risk triggers issued for very isolated thunderstorms in those regions. And then high-risk triggers for the heat over Idaho and northern Nevada. For this afternoon, highs in the low 100s in Boise and also far western Nevada. A little bit cooler on the east side. Minimum relative humidities are also in the single digits in those areas across southern and western Nevada. By Tuesday, that moisture begins to work its way westward into the southern Great Basin. So we do have high-risk triggers issued again for mainly central Nevada and western Utah. A little bit further east, we do expect thunderstorms, but many of these thunderstorms in central and eastern Utah will be accompanied by some precipitation beginning on Thursday. Continued high-risk triggers for the heat over Idaho and northern Nevada. So looking at the thunderstorm potential on Tuesday, again over southern Nevada, those storms may be more of a mix of wet and dry, where over Utah, especially the higher elevations there, they'll probably have a better chance of carrying some precipitation. And the temperatures are very hot once again on Tuesday, especially over Idaho. On Wednesday, the moisture continues to move northward into the Great Basin. We do see some of our PSAs moving up into, or decreasing their fire danger down into the green category by Wednesday, with continued wetter thunderstorms across southern Utah and the higher elevations of southern Nevada. The threat for lightning activity continues to spread a little bit further northward, where the thunderstorms will be a mix of wet and dry. over northern Nevada and up into Idaho on Wednesday. Some of these storms may produce light amounts of precipitation, but on the heels of that very hot and dry high pressure ridge there's definitely an increased threat for new initial attack. So for Wednesday, again, looking at the bulk of the thunderstorm activity to come to Utah and central and southern Nevada, but further north and west, some isolated thunderstorms may develop, and those will be on the drier side on Wednesday, and still very hot in those areas. So the 3-day precip totals through Wednesday evening here, showing the bulk of the precipitation coming to central and southern Nevada, much of Utah, particularly the higher elevations, and then a little bit of a signal up in the central Idaho mountains as we get into Wednesday. Beyond Wednesday into Thursday, the moisture sticks around, mostly over Utah and up into Idaho, for continued threat of thunderstorms. Over Idaho, they will continue to be possibly a mix of wet and dry, or certainly thunderstorms in an area that has been very hot and dry for a few days anyway, so that threat for new initial attack is increased. And then the storms, of course, over Utah will continue to be on the wetter side. On Friday, thunderstorm activity will begin to decrease as the moisture is a little bit less abundant, but continued thunderstorm activity again on Friday across portions of the area. And then on Saturday, begin to dry out. That ridge does weaken across the Pacific Northwest, but we still have general ridging in place over the entire western U.S. So continued hot temperatures across much of the area, but not the record levels we're seeing earlier in the week. But still very warm with some moisture underneath the ridge, mainly lingering over the north by Saturday. And then on Sunday, the ridge weakens a bit, flattens out, and we still see the threat for some thunderstorm activity over mainly the northern half of the Great Basin. The 7-day precip totals, not showing too much beyond the 3-day. The bulk of the precipitation is going to come in the short term in that Tuesday to Thursday time frame. We will see a little bit more precipitation in the extended up here in the central Idaho mountains and western Wyoming as well. Then the extended forecast, July 5th through the 11th, continues to put the bulk of the heat over the northern Great Basin, northern Rockies, for very warm temperatures continuing up there. And below normal chances for precipitation accompanying that heat as well. There is still an above normal chance for precipitation over the far southwest. Looks like we may be in a little bit of a drier pattern for Utah during that second week of July. But hopefully the moisture will return after that. This concludes today's fire potential briefing. Please check back tomorrow for the latest updates.